Well, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you. Appreciate you always being here. And I do mean always, because I know a lot of you are here like every single day. Day in, day out, night in, night out. And I appreciate you coming by. And even if it's your first time, thank you. My voice just gave out when I said thank you, but thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and finish Robert Fripp's album Exposure. We're going to listen to the second side of the album. We listened to the first, and now we're going to listen to the second. It just makes sense, you know, any way you spin it, it just makes sense. The album, the first side has showcased so much diversity that I wasn't expecting from Fripp. Like, obviously, we know of his talents. We know what he can do. But I didn't expect the album to go in so many different directions. It's like a variety pack of assorted flavors and assorted candies. I don't know, you never know what you're going to get out of the pack, but you know you're going to get something cool. You know you're going to get something sweet and good. So moving on to the second side, we're going to listen to the title track, Exposure, Hayden 2, or Hodden 2, or Hodden 2, Urban Landscape, I May Not Have Had Enough of Me, but I've Had Enough of You. Jeez! That one has some attitude to it. First inaugural address of the IACE Sherborne House. Water Music 1, Here Comes the Flood. Water Music 2, and Postscript. So those are the tracks we're going to be listening to today. Some of them are quite short, so we'll probably just let some of them run together. But overall, we'll probably stop every track afterwards and discuss it in some way. So let's go ahead and get into it, huh? Hope that you're enjoying. I don't even know what day it's going to be that this video comes out, but hope that it's a good day for you. Let's go ahead and get started with this. We're going to listen to the track Exposure first. So let's go scroll down to that. And, oh, and you know, it'll be cut up here on YouTube. Watch on Patreon. It's free. Just go do it. Here we go. You know, Exposure is, to me, the perfect bath of warm water to step into this second side. To me, extremely inviting, especially with that bass. I mean, come on. You hear that bass? It's groovy, it's slow, it's methodical, and it's precise, and it's so inviting. Once again, we get Tara Roach. And I'm sorry for mispronouncing her name. I did not. A lot of you, whenever I mispronounce something, will put in the comments like how to pronounce it. Genuinely, sometimes I just forget. I'll read the comment and be like, oh yeah, that's how you pronounce it. And then I forget how to pronounce it. But once again, we're going to get Tara Roach on the vocals here from the last track, Mary. And in Mary, sounded very much like Joni Mitchell I had mentioned. Here, it just closer to Nina Hagen. just like going for it. I love that, though, this complete exposure of vocals, of self. It's just, let's let it rip. Amongst the cool drippings of the water, it's just a really nice balance between them. I did see that it's going to be Fripp himself who's actually providing those deeper male vocals and tones underneath the waters of this song. And it's just this really nice, like I mentioned, methodical, but also kind of meditative in the way that it works. The guitar just kind of sizzles and washes back and forth. This is really just a track to kind of invite us back into the scheme of things, back into the album. And I'm really enjoying that. That was a smooth, cool entrance back in. Let's look at these lyrics, huh? It is impossible to achieve the aim without suffering. It is impossible to achieve the aim without suffering. So I see that that is a quote apparently by J.G. Bennett. Never heard of the guy. But he must have said something important with that quote there. I don't know exactly what he was referencing with that quote. Let's see if we can find that. But you could kind of apply that to general things, you know. If you have a goal, if you have a dream, it is impossible to achieve that without some sort of suffering behind it. I'm just trying to see if there was something specific he was meaning when he mentioned that specific quote. I do not see anything except a bunch of motivational posters. But like I said, I think that could just be applied to anything. Now, I'm going to admit, let me take you guys down a dark alley with me real quick, okay? There was a brief period of my life when I was really into French horror movies, right? Especially, there's a specific name for it. French, there's a word for the type of movies. But it reminded me of Martyrs, okay? For anyone who's seen Martyrs, you already know. Yes, it's a very, very extreme film. But the ending of the movie, I don't even know how to describe it to you if you haven't seen it. Don't watch it. It's very, very harsh. But basically, there's this group of people, there's this society that believe you can peek into the afterlife if someone suffers just enough and just to the point of death. Like right before you die, they believe that you can peek into the afterlife and kind of see what's on the other side. So they subject someone to that. And like I said, it's not a friendly movie to watch. But at the very end, the person whispers in the lead cultist ears and tells them what they see on the other side. It's never revealed what that person sees on the other side because as the lady, the head cultist, is questioned, and everyone's excited to find out what she saw or what was whispered to her on the other side of life, she shoots herself and she says, "Keep doubting." I think that movie is really cool. Anyways, all of that little quote made me think of that, and it's probably nothing like it. And they just keep on repeating and spelling out exposure in the lyrics as they go on. Listen, it's a cool song, great bass line. Martyrs, good movie, but you got to prepare yourself for it. Let's move on to the next track, huh, shall we? Let's just do that. The next one is going to be Hayden 2. We may let it lead into Urban Landscape. We'll see. Let's just go. Let me back it up a little bit to exposure. We'll go.
If you know you have an unpleasant nature and dislike people.
That's definitely true.
This requires some research. This requires some looking into, because there were a lot of spoken word bits in here, which I think is a really cool idea to include. And I see once again we're getting some more J.G. Bennett. So, is the second half of this album like going to involve him even further and even more? I have no idea. Maybe I need to look more into Mr. Bennett. And then we get several others. I see even Brian Eno is included in some of these voiceovers here. Then the music just stops, and then we're just left with him at the end. Some more sound bites. This is not a sound bite. This is a sound mouthful, if you want to go in that direction. But what I find cool is that both this track and the previous one both had a certain vocal theme, a certain spoken or sung theme that just kind of repeated itself throughout, right? Before, the spelling out of, exposure, along with Terre Roche singing over that, and then here, just the spoken word pieces. But beneath those vocals are two completely different musical themes. The first was very soft, was very melodic, was very mellow. Here, we're almost getting back to that King Crimson-esque kind of red, hard-hitting guitar, very crashy. It's very, there's a collapsing nature to it, and this sort of downfall in the music itself. So it's two completely different atmospheres, yet at the same time playing in a similar manner, which I think is really cool. This is kind of like, oh my god, My Life in the Bush of Ghost. David Byrne and Brian Eno? Yeah, I think so. Forgot already. Oh my god, that's horrible. Like these little sound experiments, except here we're kind of playing with a little bit more of a pop-centric role in the music. It's kind of cool. J.G. Bennett, if you have an unpleasant nature and dislike of people, this is no obstacle to work, which is repeated at the end. So I think he's saying even if you don't like to work with people, even if you have an unpleasant disposition, that's no excuse for not working. You can still work. I know that I could easily spend the rest of my life with you, from this unknown female voice. And then it was backwards in the actual song here, but it's Graham Chapman, another person I've never heard of, saying, "One thing is for sure, a sheep is not a creature of the air." Okay. Yes. Yes. Another unknown male voice. There's a new governor of racketeering, conspiracy, mail fraud, income tax evasion. Brian Eno says an incredibly dismal, pathetic chord sequence. Can you imagine? Maybe they were in the like studio writing, and then Fripp just turned on the recording and caught Eno saying that. Hopefully, he wasn't talking about Fripp's work. And then once again, we get a repeat of J.G. Bennett. So Graham Chapman was an English actor, comedian, and writer. He was one of the 6 members of the comedy group Monty Python. Oh, okay. All right. We saw Life of Brian. We watched Life of Brian over on Just JP Plus. Okay. I'm trying to remember who his character was. Was he the guy who wanted to be a girl, and what was the name? I think that might have been the character he played in the movie, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Now I'm not remembering. I heard Brian. Oh, no, he played Brian. You thought I would have recognized him by looking at him. And then J.G. Bennett. Like, were these just sound bites that they had found in speeches and in different forms of media from these particular people and put them in the music? Or did they actually have the people in here? Hold on, I can tell you. I can prove this right now. Couldn't have been, because this album was released in 1979 and Bennett died in 1974. Okay, well, that answers at least part of my question. Let's go ahead and move on to the next track here. That is going to be, hold on, I'm getting it. Give me one moment. Urban Landscape. Let's go. Play the last little bit of Hayden 2. What's Hayden? By the way, I got no idea what Hayden 2 is. Try and find out real quick. Hayden. I don't see anything. I don't see anything. Let's just move on. Let's go. I'm going to let this little transition play when we get to the next song, but we got to talk about the last two. Urban Landscape, it's this very, very simple, slightly growing, slightly increasing, slightly decreasing, little melodic line to lead us into the next song. Honestly, not much to talk to or talk about in Urban Landscape. I expected Urban Landscape to be a lot more chaotic, because when I think of urban landscape, when I think of a city, I think of chaos, I think of traffic, I think of busyness. This was everything but. That was just a mellow kind of calm. A calm before the storm, because the storm of I may have had enough of me, but I've had enough of... That kicked me in the face. Like a Jackie Chan roundhouse to my cheek, and I'm still recoiling from the hit. Tara Roche, Peter Hamill, Narada on the drums, Levin bass, Fripp guitar, and then I think it was Barry Andrews, was it? Barry Andrews on the organ. Ooh, hot. There's a beautiful chaos in the maelstrom of that track. A huge component of that is the lyrics, or are the lyrics. I'm going to get to the music real quick, but listen to this, right? That is the way it is because it is that way. It is that way in that it is the way it is, in the way that I think you understand where I'm going with this. The lyrics are just convoluted and confusing, and God, they're just like this. They're just cross-stitched beyond repair. And then you have two vocalists, while I'm not as familiar with Miss Roche, but Peter Hamill, who just brings it, obviously. He has one of those voices that can... incredible range. It can do anything. And then Tara Roche, who I think at this point has demonstrated that she can more than step up to the plate as well. Just bringing their dramatic roles to this particular track in this really cool call-response, back-and-forth conversation with one another, in which it boils to arguing and then simmers back down to this one melodic line where the music breaks and you have that synth that I'm also pretty sure is being played by Fripp that more rises. It's very mellow, and then it gets right back into that heavy, thrashy, kind of punky guitar and attitude and just deconstruction and destruction. That is awesome. Now, throughout this, like I said, the guitar is just very, very heavy, almost a little punky in my opinion. The drumming by Narada is just extremely thorough. Barry Andrews, who's playing the organ on here, I like how you hear him very subtly in the first half, and then in the second half you hear him just a little bit more up front, but still very subtly. I had to listen out for him, but I really enjoyed what he was doing, because if you listen to the first half, I'm 90% sure that it's Fripp who's playing this guitar synth line just kind of in the undercurrent of the maelstrom, like I said, of the track. And then in the second half, you really start to hear that organ just a little bit turned up. I mean, like, just ever so slightly. So it's like these nice little unexpected surprises amongst this storm of a track. And that little break... Oh, hold on. Let me turn the volume down a little bit and go back to it. Hold on. I was right. This? That's almost like they're playing in the stars. They're playing in the space and in the break of the track, which is just... I think really cool. And like I said, we already kind of talked about these lyrics, and I'm not gonna... That's a tongue twister. I wonder how fast I can say that. Hold on. You know what you came here for. That is the way it is because it is that way. It is that way in that it is the way it is in a way that it is... Oh, I've already messed up. Hey, let's... And then the track after this was just 7 seconds. It's just a little snippet. And that's going to be first inaugural address of the IACE Sherborne House. Let's click on that Sherborne House to see what the heck that is. It is a large house in Sherborne. Imagine that. England. The Dutton family owned Sherborne Manor. It is a U-shaped house. The adjoining church is St. Mary Magdalene. Origins of the 13th centuries. Extensive parkland. Gardens. Just seems like a pretty beautiful place. That's all it is. So, first inaugural address. Well, there wasn't much going on there. Oh, let's go ahead and let that move into Water Music 1. And we probably will let it lead into Here Comes the Flood. It seems they have some sort of connection. Let's go ahead and let those play there.
When the night shows, the signals grow on radios. Oh, here comes the flood. We'll say goodbye to flesh and blood. You and me, and if we break before the dawn, we'll use up what we used.
Obviously completely different than what we were given on Peter Gabriel's solo album. But how powerful is that? Can I tell you? Hold on, first of all, there's a mosquito. Somewhere in here. Can I tell you? I'm not one to typically tear up, cry, get overly emotional at songs. Typically. There's been a few times. You guys have been there. But this is one that is just so tender. It's just so drawn from the heart. And Peter Gabriel just has one of those voices that strikes a chord. That this gets me in that mood to well up and swell up a little bit with some tears. This is close. This is close. That is a fantastic rendition of Peter Gabriel's Here Comes the Flood. Stripped of all the bombast and just brought down to the bare minimum. That's beautiful. You could hear hearts beating if you were in the audience listening to this song being performed live. You know, like that's when the audience is just so mesmerized, so captivated that you can just feel and hear each other's heartbeats. For just a moment, you guys and everyone in the audience are just one listening to Gabriel perform. That's a beautiful rendition. I love how the synth kind of sizzles underneath with this touching, affectionate kind of movement that began in the previous track in Water Music 1. You know, you come back to it, it's just these slow risings and fallings and callings of synth that just kind of build up and back. And I think that's going to be Fripp and Brian Eno. I think. I'm only saying Brian Eno because he's not credited on Water Music 1, but he is credited with synth on Here Comes the Flood. So I'm imagining that him and Fripp probably have some hand in Water Music 1, acting as a prelude into Here Comes the Flood, which breaks through with that first raindrop of piano, and then everything calms down for a space, and Gabriel enters in. This thing is so creaky. Oh my god. But like I said, this one is just a little more quiet, a little more intimate, a little more mellow, but just as, if not more, heavy hitting in the emotional department. I won't go over the lyrics too much, but I do think it's important to read them again. I actually pulled up the lyrics from Peter Gabriel's version, like on his solo album, and here from Fripp's, just to see if there were any differences in the lyrics or anything changed. And I don't think anything had changed between the lyrics. So let's read that. When the night shows, the signals grow on radios. All the strange things, they come and go as early warnings. Stranded starfish have no place to hide, still waiting for the swollen Easter tide. There's no point in direction we cannot even choose a side. I took the old track, the hollow shoulder, across the waters on the tall cliffs. They were getting older. Sons and daughters, the jaded underworld was riding high. Waves of steel hurled metal at the sky, and as the nail sunk in the cloud, the rain was warm and soaked the crowd. Lord, here comes the flood. We'll say goodbye to flesh and blood. If again the seas are silent, in any still alive, it'd be those who gave their island to survive. Drink up, dreamers, you're running dry. So, as I mentioned before, I think that this is referencing the flood. Did I almost say the flood in Eden? The flood. The flood, Noah's Ark, that whole story. But in a sense, bringing it to modern day, bringing it to a modern audience, and saying, you know, if this was to happen in some capacity or some disaster like it, how will we react? He says, we'll say goodbye to flesh and blood. If again the seas are silent, if everything calms down, and if any are still alive, it'll be those who gave their island to survive. People will rise up to the occasion, will rise up to the disaster. He has a faith in people and a heart towards people that they would help one another, that we would help one another, giving up our island, our security in this massive destruction to help each other and one another. When the flood calls, you have no home, you have no walls. In the thunder crash, you're 1,000 miles within a flash. Don't be afraid to cry out what you see. The actor's gone, there's only you and me. In this disaster, when all the walls are gone, not just literal walls like homes and buildings and that kind of thing, but mental walls. Walls in society, the things that keep us apart are gone in these desperate times. So in the end, we'll come together and we won't have to worry about these mental walls that were built up in society. Then at the end, he just repeats, drink up, dreamers, you're running dry. Drink up, dreamers, you're running dry. Let's move on to the last two tracks of the album. That's going to be Water Music 2 and then Postscript. So let's go ahead and let me pull up my lyrics here real quick for that. And then we'll go ahead and let the end of Here Comes the Flood play. Very affecting song, very, very moving. Let's go ahead and let that go. I think Fripp is just recording people when they're not aware. I think that he's just recording people and no one knows that he's recording them. So Water Music 2 and Postscript are basically just epilogues to the album. They're just little quiet moments to like ease you back into the real world, ease you back to consciousness. Here Comes the Flood actually is pretty much the last track and the ending track of the album. And if you think about it like that, which I think it kind of is, what a powerful way to go out. I mean, just a blast of emotion. And then this is kind of the coming down section of the album. So this one does not end with a bang. This one ends with a whisper. But like I said, these echoes and these whispers off of Here Comes the Flood, it just kind of gives you this nice, a satisfaction to the album. Personally, I think that the second side of the album works so much better as an album. It actually flows really, really nicely. It works so well in succession with each other. The tracks kind of make sense as they move on. And I think the first side is good too, but the first side feels more like a compilation of different styles kind of tossed together. The second half feels like it was done with a purpose in completion. This does not take away from the whole album, because the whole album is pretty cool. But I just think the second side has a certain story to tell. It feels like it has a certain continuity between the tracks. Let's talk about the lyrics on Postscript, which are really just Brian Eno saying, "So the whole story is completely untrue, a big hoax," which is repeated through Fripp playing with the tapes and everything. So I think it's just kind of like a little comedic way to end the album. You know, the whole thing was just a hoax. I don't know. I can't even dig deeper into it. And like I said, Water Music 2 was just a little Tangerine Dream, which I was listening to Phaedra earlier when I was at work. Good album. But yeah, that's the album. There's nothing much to say on the last two tracks, but this was a really cool album to listen to. Thank you guys for, letting me know about the album and continually, because I know some of you have been asking for this one for like years, like literally years. So thank you for recommending the album to me, for continuing to put up with me. It takes me a while to get to things sometimes, but thank you for your patience. I know some of you have waited for a long time. But let me know your favorite tracks on the album. I think if I'm looking at it, Here Comes the Flood has to be one of the best tracks. I think that's just a given. Disengaged, North Star. Those are pretty good. Mary was beautiful. This album has a lot of good tracks. And even the little interludes and the little sound bites that sometimes connect the tracks together, I think kind of are the ligaments and the tendons and connecting the soul of this album. Like, I feel like they would be a little bit incomplete without them. Sometimes you get little interludes and it's like, no, that was kind of unnecessary, or that was just kind of like a waste of space. I don't really feel like any of the little, tracks here, the shorter tracks, act like that. I think they actually serve a purpose in us being served the next dish, the next track. And I think they do a really good job of kind of coming off of the previous track and allowing us to kind of look forward to what's coming up in the next track, especially with Urban Landscape moving into I May Have Had Enough of Me But Not Enough, or whatever. Yeah, that's a big slap in the face. Hey, once again, I appreciate all of you being here. If it's your first time here, I hope that you enjoyed yourself. I hope that you had a good time. I hope that you enjoyed my company. I hope you enjoyed the music. If it's not your first time here, hope you enjoyed my company. Hope you enjoyed the music. Hope all that stuff. Either way. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. You can follow me on Twitter. You can support the channel on Patreon. Hope that you enjoyed the music from Fripp. Hope that you enjoyed myself as well. That's it. Go out and play. Go out and play with the rest of the neighborhood kids. Go out and touch some grass. Go out and, I don't know, take your wife, your husband, your partner, take your dog, take someone on a date. Just go out. Hang out. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Unless it's like, well, even if it's midnight, go out. Go stargazing. Anyways, have a wonderful one, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.